Testing, testing. How's it going? Welcome to PARACONOMY Inc. It's 2:16 p.m. 4/29/2025. Just picking up on some loose ends, trails, and stuff like this because I don't know how many more days I have before I start having to roll out and get this legal crap all on the way. But here we're gonna pick up today on a few different things on this line of legacy here towards who somebody did sounds like somebody tried to destroy my north node and they kept me in my south node, but it's we started here at Don and Haley's from Chicago, and somehow Sam and Elise and like a few other people have connected the dots here for me today on how they got to my friends in Chicago who are in the know. And somebody's tipped off Ben and Haley, and that must be Haley's new partner. And that's something they've got going on that they've apparently carried over for quite some time. Now, this group of people were all doing stuff like behind a lot of people's like stuff, and like they didn't get no they had a lot of parties. They got to know a lot of people and they solidified their stay in Chicago in different ways. And so that was them. And this is how it's gotten back to a couple of these kids. Cassie brought back out, went to some parties, and they may or may not have gotten invited by Kate. And so, like, that could be one big reason why they got involved. And there's plenty of other loose ends here in Lansing that go out to Chicago very often. So it's not hard to imagine that these people who did not have my best interest and my parents and family let out a lot. They sold me out, right? To a lot of my colleagues on what the line of legacy could be. And they are doing weird stuff with it now because people are now aware of my experience and they want more of it, but they don't. It's weird. So it sounds like Don, to just sum up a story here, it's just one angle that I've had to sit with. Accidentally kind of replaced Don in a band my roommate Mike was starting. And Mike was one of my friends from freshman year that I met during summer school. So it was like me, Mike, Chris, and Marquis living in like the dorm together. And that shit was packed full of people all the time. It was a great time. But I ended up getting kicked out because me and Kate get in a fight while I'm drunk for one of the first times. And she's like, she is not happy. So like we go through this thing and like it ends up kind of pulling apart other couples that are already together. And that's why right before that all starts to play out during the springtime, it changed. It was during like winter. So that's sort of around the time we went on tour, was like that fall. And that's when like I replaced Don as a guitarist, and he replaced me with Yuya as a staple for the popular kids, basically. And he just became like a jealous, nerdy guy, and slipped into that role and was actually like slick ricking me, to make me feel bad for taking the yes. And so that's where I start I stopped getting fed some of the line at Columbia because I don't know any better. I don't know anybody. And they all like jumped to the head of the line once they saw that I wasn't doing the same thing and that I was kind of attempting to go a more non-traditional route. And they were kind of like, um they couldn't nail me down, but they attempted to, and they like caught on to where it was, and like I stopped being able to be a part of. I this is where I start to get blacklisted out of Facebook groups and stuff like that because they gain uh footing on the next generation of popular kids that Yuya introduces me to, where I'm completely askewed to what happened in the party, and now there's a new party with new rules and new people, and so like this keeps happening to me, and there's no coincidence. It has to do with a lot of, like, people they're cheating, they're plagiarizing their point of, like, control, and they're, like, kind of feeding the beast, which is why I end up getting backstabbed again here, it looks like. There's some sort of repetition that's happening. Whenever I go to ask for help, I get help and then people give up on me. So like there's this it's kind of this thing that like it's I don't know. Uh 'Cause it's not it's a little bit out of my control because 'cause I'm never too pushy about it to go down this path. I'm never really pushy about when I ask for things, and when I ask for things, it's because like, they're easy to complete, and so, like, it's not like it's unreasonable. So this might be where I'm starting to be tested on asking for things that are due and not unreasonable in, like, balance. So, if these if this group connected with my sister, and now my sister somehow goes to Chicago to hang out with my old friends, and she connected them to this friend group that I tried to build, and she completely, like, screwed me over and out of, like, jobs, funds, friends, family, then it makes sense that my sister is a huge catalyst here into how far I got into the popular kid club, and now she's doing acid and smoking weed and stuff, like, taking Molly with her friends out there, which internally she's living a part of my life because she didn't know I got well, she's sitting in the back seat, jealous of me being like, "He's gonna get everything because he's a Christmas baby, blah, 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 blah. He's always ruining my birthday, blah, 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 blah." And, like, what she didn't realize is how during that time of feeling like the victim, she became the biggest, greediest asshole here and walked away with my entire, like, good, like, part of my 20s and my teens, 20s, and 30s, my whole life is being strung around, as a decoration for my parents and my sister to be able to be like, "See, we do all the work. Look at us doing but now we get to enjoy all the work." But it's at the cost of realizing I have all the fun. And so now they don't know how they're busy having fun that way, but they don't know how to do any of the things I'm like doing now off grid, which which is a bunch of things. And it's like now like I'm going around basically testing people and like seeing if they believe in this enigmatic astral projection, and I'm flashing really violent acts and like gory instances in front of people's faces, so they wake up to how powerful some of my extractions have been and why they get a watered down version, and that's kind of where they kind of have half the details because they always talk to other people, and they like that version more. But whenever they talk to me, it's something embarrassing like the truth. And so like that's kind of one big reason why people are like screwed over the fact that a lot of people went around me to have a lot of sex and a lot of fun without me. And now everybody's like, when did I have the most when did I where did I get this thing from that gives me a habit of needing this thing? Oh yeah, it's Professor Fun. It's Alex. Wait, so I can get that guy back, right? And then they're like, nope, you can't get that guy back for free. And so they're trying to go around you again, to get, but you stopped living life. This is another thing that happens with that. They can't cheat from you because this is the consequence. I've gone in complete hermit mode and I've stopped living parts of my life that would lead people to the next cheat. So because I'm stuck, so everybody's fucked over because I'm at stuck in stagnation and waiting for just like a acknowledgement that I've done anything correctly in my entire life by the people who reinforce corporal punishment on a daily standard to feel good about where they're at in the world. And that's one big reason why people are starting to wake up and I'm astral projecting ultra violence onto people who have backstabbed me or lied or cheated in some way. And it seems like it's able to it's able to kind of reciprocate some of the ill will that's been printed by the misinformation. And so that way, like, people can kind of acknowledge how that glove fits over the fact that like people have subdued me with ulterior motives and that the love is conditional. So like I watched David show the other day and it's like people like me for my things. They don't like me because of how I contribute to society. They just like how I mean, they like some of it, but and then if they don't get anything out of it, they stop enjoying it so much, and they start figuring out what they like about the things I have access to. Art, art and music and fun and like capabilities, and they all decided, well, we're just going to cut the funding because he can't control himself, he can't party, blah 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 blah. And so they just cut the party completely off at the hinges, and they're like, look, well, you know everybody in this club. Yeah, you know everybody, you know Yuya. You've met with Yuya. Yeah, you know, all your friends know each other without you. But it's all because of you. It's always because it comes down back onto me. Because now we've gone through some of the astral realms that I've had access to, and other people also have access to these intellectual properties that I now own and have co-opted. And people are trying to replicate some of the things I've taught them without paying penance to the core value in which I perform them. So like that's why they're coming back with a bigger bill and more expectation for a better people pleasing. It's how people will essentially overplay their hand. And so like that's where you have to pick up on the fringe of what it is that's going off that they're not even conscious of. Because like by the time you see what they're doing in the waking world versus what they're doing in like a more transitional experience like a dream, it makes sense that people are looking at the falsehoods of, well, the results. And so like capitalizing on the lessers and stuff like that. So it keeps people pleased and it makes people look bad where they're supposed to look bad and good where they're supposed to look good for a second. And that's just enough time for people to uh, complete things for you and finish things for you because they've gotten the impression you don't show up for yourself, but they don't know anything that you they don't ask where you show up for yourself and why you show and why you need more facilitation here, which leaves them at dire straits on having to prove how innocent their overplaying is. So obviously there's some kinks in the setup, and when you do the setup right, it should have a few different outcomes. One of them should be streamlined, outward towards the main function of the setup. But other ones can also allow others into play or constrict their agenda. So that's why the path of least resistance, you have to look at the friend groups I've been a part of. And Don might not like have my best interest because he's also kind of a part of people who have attempted to like take away parts of my like fun and popularity and succeeded in some way. But also, just like always, even once it hits, I end up somewhere else in reality. And it's kind of how um people get the synopsis responses on what's my next trip, what's my next plan, how can we subdue this so we can stop you from fighting people. And that's like kind of not working because I haven't done anything in like 3 4 years, so like people are like wondering, well, now I can't steal from him because he hasn't leveled up and he hasn't done anything because his expect and in fact, he's in bigger trouble now because I did all this and he knows about it. While I all he was helping me do was this. He didn't agree to this. That's why I took it upon myself to go do this for him. And that's where everybody got caught with their pants down out in Hollywood, out in Chicago, out here in Detroit and Michigan, where people were not people pleasing in a place where you're supposed to pay respect to people. And very often people don't realize they have time to do that. I'm guilty of that, but like it affects the it affects this part where people have they already want to react, which is toxic. Your mom wants to find where you're lying. This is it too. Your mom deliberately goes out of her way to find your next lie so she can lay down your next lesson, and she has never sat there with the truth on you and enjoyed the knowing better and having access to that. So that's probably how you guys get this big old goose egg for having using me as a prop in your stage because I'm above it. And so like it could blur the lines here because Don knows a lot of people in and there's like some hard rock cafe, Portillo's McDonald's dreams coming up, where you get the two-story McDonald's in Chicago, and there's dreams that people have dreams there. And it basically it alludes to the fact that people have been spying on my well-being and that not everybody has the best intentions for it. Some people do, some people are neutral, and some people just plain don't. So it takes one big heavy swing of the thing in order to even make it kind of have resonance there. So if you're on that side of it and you got caught, there's the door on being able to enter, because just because you got through one time doesn't mean you'll get through again and again until you hit my freaking all my ops, and they'll let you in, but you'll have to go play ball with them, and they fuck people over so bad. So I was just trying to protect people from fucking each other over too heavily and readily because it is a jungle out there. And if I sent a bunch of your kids out there before I could give them the vetting on the go ahead and I told them no, they ended up going out there and now they're in the trouble I used to be. And I'm not in charge of it anymore. So people are coming back to me for answers. They went off to do their own thing without me years ago. So, that's about all I can give you guys, is the fact you have less here and you have more here is because you discovered something I was trying to share with you and give you as a gift for Christmas, and it was supposed to keep me from going this route where I'm now thousands of dollars in debt. and and trouble with the law. But this is another part of like facilitation for Hollywood to kind of flip me into like a badass actor and stuff like that with the people, and so they could put me up with the people I belong with in the world instead of like having to let you just cook and not have any resolve. So at the very least, your family will know you're owed and you'll be able to kind of just glide through that entry as a career working entertainer. So like that's kind of probably why is they had to look at disassembling the nuke for Barbenheimer, and they couldn't get Barbie to disassemble it, so they had to get your dad to like nuke this thing, but that required your dad to hack your accounts and stuff like that and a few years back. So your dad's guilty for dark web hacking. The government knows it, and they won't necessarily charge him for it unless you play catalyst to caveat in bringing it up, and that gets the rest of your family because Don also knows some of the Bungie and Blizzard interns. And so that's how Don gets all of your nerdy friends over here with Kendra onto the Comic-Con with your sister. So they're all on the streamline on the setup for preppy popular kids. And that gives them access to a ton of my colleagues. But like it's a lot of hit and miss because they already have the juice, but that's because there's nepotism. I'm doing it without that. They're trying to seek entry with an organic phase, and they're starting to get filtered. And that's kind of where people, that's good. I made sure I made nice with the filters, in certain places, and that's kind of why, um, the lower tier of society is starting to keep you guys where you're supposed to be too. So that's kind of how that is supposed to work in balance. And like, you know, you need people to be underneath you and you need to treat them right. And if you don't, um, you know, if you don't show up, there's nothing there. There's not it's stagnant. So like that's kind of where I'm assuming this has been placed as all these clowns got with all those clowns, and now some of these ones, and there's no entry fee for me in this part where I have a good blanket of networking of people that I've helped put on and then like tried to reestablish the right networking with like Brad with Juan and like a bunch of other people that I've helped put on out in Chicago to come back and stuff like that. So while my light work, it's very light. I still like show up and try to give my all, so it's kind of funny that like but like it makes sense, dude. There's a lush amount of luxuries following me at any given point in my life, and I if I miss those, people might catch up with some of those. And this is a point in play where my parents deliberately showed everybody what the taco was, and like I didn't get any this time, and they're basically they're gonna be like, let's see, I'm done. I'm gonna go die. So like, let's see how it works for your child. You guys got it figured out, right? You're all taking care of each other. They're too easy here, which is why it makes sense that I'm able to hold this on them here at the company and put a little dirt on the internet for people to be able to like suss through and be like, is that right? And then be like, nope, he's owed a whole chunk out here on vacation days. He never stopped school. He never had a summer. So if he was supposed to have a summer vacation or family camp or anything like that, where he would have now had community, he doesn't have that. He has schooling. He has like hours of schooling and like abuse and trauma attached to it. So, like, you know he's been in survival mode, and you know he's been brick building this entire time, which is why you can't just, like, suffix the entire, like, scrutiny of it. Because I got shanghaied, and, like, if it's going back to 20 years ago when I first, like, shoved out to Chicago from, like, just, like, high school to college, then it makes sense that, like, they didn't grow up after that either, and, like, my sister and her friends and stuff like that, they, like they barred off at, like, growing up to, like, being college being, like, the pinnacle of adulthood, and that's where they decided they're done growing up, and they don't have to grow up again. They're in their late 30s. So like that's where they're trying to be like, come on, we're just playing around, but it's not that at all, and it's much more serious. So like it takes me back to one Christmas my mom got me shark socks and I really liked them. I put them on and it's like, look, they're eating my feet. My mom's like, oh hey, yeah, like some crackhead, and she's like, excuse me, and she's like, oh, in with you, rips the socks. I'm like, mom, don't stop, mom, rips the socks. So this is that. My mom, I had girls lined up. I had a lot of friends and parties lined up for everybody to meet each other. But because my cousins never showed up, my sister stabbed me in the back a bunch. Everybody lied about it, and everybody saw what they wanted to see. Nobody actually gets the fill in on this cool angel demon alien guy, and they all get to screw off the whatever which way they want and the naughty list. So unless they want the better cred of what it is I'm capable to flip them onto the nice list, they'll stay on the naughty list, they do with me, and just that's how they get to partition and collective with some of their enigmatic behavior, their pre-post life kind of entry. So some people are like already entering death, and it's because of me. I'm like catalyst. And if they make it right, they don't have to. But like if they're staying wrong, they might end up dying. And like it's just kind of a part of dualism here at Paraconomy Inc. If I can astral project um a warning and it works, then it means that like we can keep people from taking advantage of each other, and that we can, if people that can't stop, that it will eventually slow them down and keep them from ever being able to do it for quite some time. So that's kind of where I want to end things. Is y'all got the naughty list over there in Chicago too? Oh man, you guys better keep it tight this year. Kurt Russell's coming for Christmas with Tim Allen. I don't know what you guys are going to tell those two. They're both